Perfect. So we're coming online now and just getting people joining us. So welcome everybody. Please, when you do come online, give us a shout out in the chat box to let us know who you are and that you're joining us today. So we'll leave it for a good minute or so just to allow everyone to sort of join us and sort of be visible, and as I say, give us a shout out if you're coming online now. We're actually joined by Rachel Patterson. So Rachel, hello, thank you very much for doing this. I really do appreciate it. Rachel's currently holed up in a client's offices, I believe. Otherwise she's just spent a lot on her decor, so
this is the interior of the house now.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. So we've got a really short half an hour burst on a massively critical topic that I think most businesses are really struggling with right now, and that being, how on earth do you hire the talent that you want to? So we've drafted in Rachel for this exact topic as someone with a huge amount of expertise in hiring and hiring processes and how that all goes together. So really grateful for Rachel joining us today. As I say, it's going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour of how you can make a few changes that are going to make a big difference to your business. So certainly from that perspective, we're really keen to kind of, if you've got any questions or anything else like that, please do put them into the forum, into the chat box. It would be great to see those. So just shoot them into the Q&A chat panel whenever you've got any questions at all. We've got a sort of a bit of a overview that we'll share with you as well, and that will kind of give you a bit of a walkthrough of what we're doing today. But let me introduce first and foremost Rachel. So Rachel is an experienced and CIPD qualified human resources professional. So Rachel has a huge amount of experience in particularly the asset management and fund management industry across UK, Europe, and APAC. And she's skilled in UK and overseas recruitment. So new offices, team build outs, people management, compensation and benefits, HR software, good for today, policy writing, etc. And so the list goes on, training courses, etc. So I think we're really pleased to have Rachel here with us today. And I think when we discuss, or the title for this particular webinar today is The War for Talent. And it refers to an increasingly competitive landscape for the recruitment and retention of talented employees. Now, the phrase was actually coined way back when by a guy called Stephen Hankin. So he was with McKinsey at that time in about 1997. So it's been around, and we've noticed it through various different recruitment cycles. It comes and it goes through various different phases, etc. So when we look at this, I think the key thing is there's some really interesting stats out there at the moment. First and foremost, around why does Strive exist? And that's because only 78% of hiring managers give feedback to internal candidates, but 11% give feedback to external candidates. So Strive is really about both being an applicant tracking system and also giving communication to both the people you're hiring or the people that are applying for jobs. So I think really interesting stat that only 11% get communicated to. And then this links really nicely in terms of the other statistics there that effectively talk about 65% report that ultimately, organizations are looking to try and retain the best talent. And that really starts with hiring. It doesn't actually start with anything else but hiring. And then certainly for us, a further 33%, according to LinkedIn, this says, thought the demand for top talent would remain unchanged. And a massive 69%, according to the CIPD, are saying they are planning to recruit in the next 3 months alone. So that's going to put us all under pressure to find the right people, and probably provides a nice link into Rachel. So Rach, I've got 3 questions for you. hopefully you can answer those. We'll have a bit of a back and forth on them, and certainly it'd be great to see your views, hear your thoughts on these things. So we'll start off with the kind of the big macro one, and really for us, it'd be great to look at the first question around: is big, bright, bold employer branding, is it all worth it when recruiting? Your thoughts?
Yes, in summary.
It's a good quick answer. There we go, done. Why do you think it's so important, Rachel?
Yeah, so if and not just branding, brands that we recognize, a small company with slick branding will just have a better chance out there when they're up against, let's just take a financial controller position, an accountant. There are, I don't know, if you look on LinkedIn, say 150 roles out there. How's your branding going to stick out? It's going to have to somehow. And if you're not one of the big technology companies or a firm that people recognize, then that branding is just going to be really, really important. And so we think about things that we buy when we go to the shops, what looks good, what looks trustworthy. So from a business and your branding, your PR, how you market yourself, the language you're using, all of that's massively important to attract not just everybody, but also the top talent who are going to be looking for those types of things. They're not just looking for any accounting role or whatever role it is. They're looking for the business that's going to go alongside that. So yes, branding, hugely important to just start marketing to those potential candidates.
Excellent. And I think the key thing for any business when they're looking at this, they see lots of these amazing companies doing it really well and often don't know where to start. So for you, particularly when you're sitting down with a new business that you might be consulting for example, what do you look at initially to start to go towards creating that brand?
Yeah, so it's very much mirroring the language. So when you're creating job descriptions or that campaign, that marketing campaign, whether you're doing it directly yourself or you're going through an agency, it's about mirroring the language that you use in the business. So if your value propositions is around, I don't know, teamwork and collaboration, how does that language filter into that job advert? How does the recipient reading it know that that's what that business is about? So we very much look at the language used within the job description to really reflect and mirror the values within the business. We also work, especially if we're working with an agency, making sure that they're selling that role the right way as well. What are the 3 key things about this position? We're not just selling a job description. Let's just continue to use the accounting one. It seems sort of the most universal. A 5 to 7 year qualified accountant that has experience of X, Y, and Z. That's sort of just the standard known. It's what pulls that person into looking at your job description or looking at more detail into the company. What's the language that we use? What are the paragraph sentences? How do we convey ourselves either directly or through the agency, and making sure the agency that you have a trusted relationship are selling that role the right way. And it could be things actually that are more around, we're looking to bring an accountant in to work on, X, Y, and Z, but really in our bigger view that we want to become a more D&I focused firm. So we want them to come in and be part of that process. So really trying to find ways that sell it, not just at the job alone, but what the business is doing, what the focus or mission of that business is. Okay,
super. And you talk just then, which probably leads quite nicely into the next question, but just really sort of what unlocks a successful recruitment campaign. So where would you, what would you place that down to?
A solid job description for sure. Yeah, we sort of covered that, but I think you need to really think about how that process sort of starts off, what people are reading and capturing into. when you get those individuals in, the business really needs to be thinking about what that process, that structure looks like. So for some really good clients of mine, where they've had a really maybe even boring process, but a really structured, really robust process. So you're talking about businesses where they have maybe even 4 or 5 loops of skills-based interviews. So, they're really structured. They're looking for skills or seeing whether the individual has those skills. They're really performance-based. And those having more weighting actually in the selection process than the sort of behavioural. The behavioural piece is crucial. Is this person going to fit with where we're going? Are they aligned with the values of this business? But really, a lot of us overweight that. A lot of people talk about this sort of similarity, we fall into these biases that it's very innate, and we want to have that conversation and feel really close to the person that we're talking to and make sure we're going to have an affinity with them. I mean, we spend a lot of time with them, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be good at the job. And where you've got high performing businesses that retain best talent, it's because at that front layer, and actually throughout that individual's life cycle within the business, they are assessing their skills. And if there are skills missing but could be, built over time, that can be added into those selection processes. It's not that they don't have it now, but they could come, they could re-interview a year or 2 years later because they might have developed those skills later on. Another piece I would say that's really important through the selection process of finding the best talent is the moderation piece, and not having just one individual. There are some of the technology firms actually don't hire for their own teams. They actually have a separate team that recruit and interview for different teams, because they're trying to bring in sort of multifaceted approach to individuals and not have the sort of likability or halo or like me effect biases that come in very easily during interviews. So yeah, a robust selection process is key for that sort of campaign. Yeah.
I know. I mean, my hero, Laszlo Block, kind of talks a lot about sort of hiring people also with that learning potential. Do you see many firms adopting that when they're trying to look for new hires, as they're putting in place processes that allow them to test for that learning potential?
Yeah. So when you're thinking about the questions that you're posing, as actually uses a website, a government website, where he talks about the questions you can pull from their PBI interview questions. You can Google them and find those questions, and they're really built by like levels, and they're very competency based in terms of tell me about this time, and it's looking for potential. It's looking for that learning capability. Because if we're all fighting for the same talent, we want somebody else to have done all the hard work, train someone up, and we just want to buy that in. That's actually just not good enough now, because it's too competitive. You can't afford those people, or your business isn't big enough or selling enough on the sort of fringe benefit side. You don't have a Google office to compare with, or a Facebook office. Yep. So yeah, it's very much looking at, okay, so if we can't get that talent, or we haven't got sort of the unique selling point there, let's look at this talent, and that's the potential. And there's a huge capability, there's a huge pool of talent there. Some of them are really going for interviewing interns and university graduates, or even getting in before the graduates graduated, so that they can actually bring them in a year later, already tapping into the talent much earlier down the pipeline. So that's really assessing someone's potential to be good in that position versus already established.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've certainly seen that a lot in the market as well, as people gradually saying, well, actually, if it's not available there, we need to nurture that and sort of get in earlier in the curve to kind of bring that talent through. So very, very interesting. If you say to a firm now, and they were looking at things, and they said, okay, how can I raise our hiring bar quickly? What are the things that they could do just to sort of elevate their business in effect quite quickly, and sort of bring them into a new level of hiring?
Yeah, I mean, we've sort of just spoken about it. The robust process, really reflecting on how you hire these people. They're out there. So it's looking at the pools, relying on agencies, looking at direct recruiting on things like LinkedIn, going to universities and job postings, really investing in internship programs, I would say, is people are already doing that and tapping into that. So, it's almost just racing to get them younger and younger. Obviously not forgetting the older workforce, but if you're looking for sort of future workforce planning, definitely going into universities or even schools is definitely a way to raise your pool of talent, increase your pool of talent. In terms of raising our hiring bar quickly, branding a huge amount. That I can't stress enough the amount of times I hear clients say, but they're lucky to be, they're lucky to even get an interview here. They're lucky, do they not know how lucky they would be to be in this business? Yeah. It's not the reality. People are not looking at jobs going, I would be really lucky to be here. Yes, for some big companies, of course, it'd be great to have those brands and stuff. But for everyone else, maybe these companies don't even have a huge online presence yet, especially more in the startup area. So really getting your branding, talking about your message, talk about the story. Everyone loves the story about a business. How did it form? Where are they going? How are you going to be part of that? So getting someone really embellished in the story of your company. Defining that job description, know what the outputs are. Job descriptions are often quite boringly like listing what the job things you would do on a day-to-day basis. Well, most people would know what a role in HR, a role in finance would sort of entail, maybe at the junior end less so, but thinking about outputs, people really focusing on OKRs, KPIs, whatever you want to define them, ensuring that outputs. I read some really great job descriptions where it was just, be the head of HR, basically, and all that entails, then it's just creative license really to go in and say, well, what actually needs doing. So I would say really conveying that message, opening up job descriptions and having a really good, robust process during the selection process. And you talked about at the beginning, feedback and communication, making sure people feel like even if they don't get the job at the end, that they've had a really great experience and they talk about your brand to other people or could re-interview at a later stage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I wonder your reaction or when you've seen people write output-led aspects to their job description, how much positive feedback they've had off the back of that, because I know that's a complete mindset shift for people also reading the job descriptions. Says, oh, okay, be the head of HR. What does that actually mean? That's quite sort of a broad thing to sort of pose to someone. So I wonder your reaction to that.
Yeah. It's very experimental, and it could be a little bit kooky and out there. Really, the job description being almost a one-liner. And I think that's that can be the selling point. That can be where you disrupt a process which where you're trying to compete with 149 other job descriptions that look slightly similar, but they might have a cool office or full working from home, which you really want. There's always going to be those individual nuances, but the output piece, I think that really comes into play when you get someone coming in for an interview and talking about those things. I think if you can give people more flexibility over sort of the role that they're doing, 9 times out of 10, if you're hiring somebody good and you assess them for, during your selection process, skills against Excel or skills on, advert writing or whatever it might be, you can assess those skill sets, but actually they come in, they're going to do the stuff that you would have written down on there. I always remember we introduced a Netflix style no holiday policy many years ago for one of a company I used to work for, and the end result was everyone still took about 25 days holiday. It didn't change anything. We were sort of disrupting it, but in reality, humans sort of have an instinct, sort of innate need to do a certain sort of thing. It's just part of society. And so, yes, it seems crazy and wild just to put an output-led job description, but in reality, that individual, if you hire right, will come in and do the things you want them to be doing.
Good. Okay. Interesting. Look, it would be lovely if anyone's got questions that they want to put to Rachel, in effect, she's your free HR consultant right now. So please do put them into the Q&A box, and we can answer them for you. Like all of this stuff, we've never got enough time to answer everyone, but hopefully we can get round to them. I know, Rachel, just whilst they kind of come through, I'm like you, I'm a passionate advocate of creating better processes, hence for putting together Strive, which is an online applicant tracking system that people can go and use, sign up literally today, and put into place. We've got a sort of an example of a process there, but I think one key thing that I've certainly found, and I don't know whether you find it as well, is just having that kind of clear articulated process before you start, rather than ad-libbing through the process. How do you see that from your side?
Sorry, just repeat that again.
Yeah, so just having a clear structured process, to know what the first stage looks like, the second stage, the third stage, when an offer is going to be made, so people can really understand the sort of full process in its entirety.
And having that outlined right at the beginning is crucial. So when the HR hiring manager, or if the hiring manager is doing it themselves, knowing how to translate the process to candidates or to the agency who will be talking to candidates about what that process looks like. So arranging that from day one and not changing it. So not amending it because you suddenly have a huge bias for an individual that you like because they support the same team as you, that actually every individual goes through that process. They know that from day one. They know what the timeline looks like. I've had clients where candidates have gone through differing processes depending whether it's an investment hire or an operations hire. And if, you know, an individual is going through a process and suddenly they've got to now meet 3 new people, and then the next week they've got to meet another 2 new people, it looks like the business hasn't really got their sort of process together. And it can be a bit confusing because is this a good sign? Is this a bad sign? Are they deliberating? Are they a bit unsure?
Yeah.
Was I always going to do this? No one told me that I was going to be doing this. So having it really clear up front, I think that's really, crucial again for, and all the big companies, the good companies that are taking in really high performing talent have got this down to a T.
Definitely. And I know, I mean, for us, part of creating Strive was also saying that, a bit like you were saying there, it takes quite a lot of time to manage the process, but manage it well, and you get great people at the end of it, and you typically secure the person you want. So just in terms of using technology, Rachel, it's a heavily weighted question, obviously because of Strive, but here we've got a hiring flow with all of the automation, so the emails going out without you having to think about it. I know, personally speaking, I have such little time to administer the whole process is so hard. So where you personally have seen kind of the benefits of technology in hiring?
It is, habits die hard. We're still very much, if we're allowed to be given the option not to use technology, and we can go out on our own, have stuff on emails, have our own little spreadsheet, manage it for ourselves. I think there is still there is a tendency, I mean, hands up, I don't use the great technology out there for everything. I do, again, thinking about where businesses are doing it right, it's mandatory, and it becomes the automated process just does end up it does help you out hugely. It's all in one place, and with increasing things like, you know, GDPR, you've got everything in one place as well, sort of secured. Things aren't just loose on meeting invites and emails and things, or on folders that, you know, it's very hard to purge the data after a certain period of time. I think there is definitely an adoption process, and I do think where businesses are getting it right, it is a mandatory process, and we do get people onto technology. It is habitual. I think you just need to start using it, and something like Strive, it has been designed to make it really simple and easy. You can go in there and have a look at it. You know, visually it looks easy to use. It will just take a bit of time, but businesses that are doing it well are already doing it. So it's just habits.
Definitely. I know we've got things like automated, some of the interview templates that you talked about, and the other one, which is talking about having that employer brand, because I think the interesting thing is a lot of people don't necessarily think about how many people are going to go to the careers part of their their website as well. And again, kind of that goes back to that original first question around branding and making sure the brand and the business looks like one you want to work for from the outset, rather than sort of hiding that away and hoping someone will discover it as alongside. We've got a question from Madeline who sort of talks about, have you used an applicant tracking system to help your clients? So have you used it? And you can be honest with us, Rachel.
What, Strive?
No, have you used an applicant tracking system all told?
A separate one, yeah. So there are ones out there. One of the ones I've used, I won't name names, but they can be a little bit clunky and getting manager adoption. So generally, any ATS HR professionals will prefer using them, will want to use them, because they're managing so many different streams of recruitment and selection at the same time. Getting manager adoption is the key for me with any ATS system. And often they have been quite clunky. You know, if you don't have single sign-on, then a manager's got to remember what the username and password is. You've got to train them on navigating it. And if you've got a senior manager, they're probably not that bothered about going on. So you've got to really make it feel part and parcel of the process versus an add-on. And ATA, again, sort of Strive's gone for that visual, like this is aesthetically very easy to use. A child could use this by dragging and dropping things. You know, we've done this in the view that managers, if they're more engaged in a platform like this, will have the success that that the HR professional will need, because it's not just for the HR professional, it's for the candidates, for the manager and HR. You need all three to adopt it and to feel that it's useful for them too.
Yeah, I think the other thing is certainly I get a lot of feedback from when I'm talking to clients as well about reporting and knowing your numbers.
Yes.
So, and typically only when a process is going wrong rather than when it's going right. But something like this technology is really easy, just to push a button and produce the reports and actually know the numbers behind the process. And again, that often curtails any kind of problems in the hiring process or issues that the line manager might have, because then they suddenly see the amount of work that has gone behind the process. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, because I think there can be, particularly where there is a disconnect with the hiring manager not at the front end of the process doing a lot of the screening, shortlisting, longlisting, and then they will perhaps only see the shortlisted, screened CVs. They might be a bit disappointed if there's only 2 or 3 that make it through, not really realizing how much weight's been put on to that first third of the process, where perhaps the agency screened over 100 people, HR has screened maybe 10, and then we've actually shortlisted it to 3. Again, we're just in this world where there just isn't going to be a short list of 20 people for managers to have a look at. There's got to be a bit of better trust in the process, which does come down to relationships within businesses, but using a good ATS to have a bit more of a visual view of that, if managers can see that process has taken place, if they want to dip into that original screened and sort of ask questions about why someone's been not put through, then again, it's all there on the table. It's very transparent.
Brilliant. Well, as ever, Rachel, these things fly by. We've got a last question which we'll squeeze in before the half an hour is up. But someone's just asked about an ATS system being used to improve D&I. So do you see that, or how would you see that potentially helping with? It's a bit of a big question, Brendan. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, it goes down the amount of information you put into the ATS, and again, it goes down to how much you're manually having to put in. If you're putting in D&I statistics at the front end when a CV gets put into an ATS, you're only going to get as good data out as what you put in. So if the data going in has to be manually put in or isn't being put in, then from my perspective, reporting capabilities are going to be pretty minimal. If an ATS allows you to have that information that you can easily, pull from the individual applying, so it sort of forms part of the application form straight into the system, or can be pulled from the CV. I'm not sure much of that stuff's really on CVs these days, but Yeah, from a reporting perspective, minimal D&I because it's not being entered, or if it is, it's, you know, maybe gender, maybe age. You don't really sort of feel that comfortable asking for maybe sort of other bits of information, but maybe we should be putting more of that stuff in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, certainly I can say Strive does automate that. So if you need it, it's there for you. Rachel, it's been an absolute pleasure. These half an hours always go way too quickly, but really informative. And so thank you very much for turning up and giving us your time. If you've got any questions, please do reach out to me. I'm literally ed@strive, STRYVE.online. If there's questions you had for Rachel, I can also pass them on as well. So please do reach out to us. Go and take a look at Strive as well. Would love to get more of you involved, and certainly happy to give anyone who wants it a sort of bit of a private demo of the system as well. But Rachel, thanks again for your time. Great to have you on as ever, and we'll see you all soon.